Welcome. Today's December 3rd, 2024, and you've joined the Kubeflow community call. I'm your host, Josh Bottom, and I want to remind everyone that this call is being recorded. This call is governed by the Kubeflow Code of Conduct, and we're here to discuss the Kubeflow community items on our weekly regular status call. So, typically, we start off with a release update from the release team. Do we have members from the Kubeflow release team here, and do they want to provide an update?
Yes. Ricardo asked me to be here today to provide an update. So yesterday, as you know, in Valentina, I'm a principal architect at Red Hat. I am part of the release team, shadowing Ricardo. I had the privilege of being hosting the session, the meeting that we have with the teams, working groups liaison yesterday. So thank you so much for providing clear status and being open about any potential blockers. So I added all the additional information, a lot of information on the meeting notes. So on the meeting notes, you can find, I don't know, do you want me to share my screen or someone else wants to share?
Can you just give us a summary, or maybe link it in the doc?
Yeah. So the summary is all the components are in green. They don't have any potential blockers or warnings or concern at this time. But there were a couple of outstanding discussions. One is, so let me go back to my notes here. So one is about the pipelines module. We are still looking for contributors. I don't know if we have Elber here. No, we don't have. We are still looking for contributors on the issue 11.015. I added the link on the meeting notes. So please, if you have time, we would love to have your contribution on that issue. But they said that they are more than 50% progress and everything is going as planned. The other discussion we have from Julius was on the Spark operator and about the issues they will support in Istio. Julius, do you want to provide more comments on this? Julius, I think you're in mute. I don't know if we have someone.
I had to unmute.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, I just added the issue link in the document. It's 2912. And I probably can do most of the stuff myself, but especially for Istio support and upstreaming some small things, it would be helpful to have someone that maintains the Spark operator. So if someone from the Spark operator team could reach out and just comment in the issue, and I can talk on Slack to them, that might already be enough.
Great, thank you so much. Then there is another longer discussion that I will continue later. But we started talking about the testing plan. So right now we have a document that I link on the meeting notes. We are looking for help from the working groups to reviewing this. It's already started. We have some basics, use cases we are planning to cover. However, we need more information from the working groups on critical paths. The idea is to build testing plans that will serve for current and future releases, and we can just reuse all the content that we have there. So please provide a review and an update as soon as possible. That's with the testing plan. The second topic is the documentation. So Ricardo will be, so we don't have documentation tech lead for this release. So it falls into the release manager management team. So Ricardo will be working into gathering the content from the working groups and publish it on the website. He requested to have this before the feature freeze, which is the week 14 on January 20. So we still have time. Everything is documented on the issues as well and here in the meeting notes. With this, the other bigger discussion is coming from Andre that he already added on the meeting notes about the Kubernetes versions and what is supported. We had the discussion what will be supported versus tested. From Josh, he was expressing that supported can be a strong statement. So we were talking about what versions will be tested. So there was a discussion from Andre and Julius, I know, on the side. Andre, do you want to provide more inputs on this? And that's all I have. So right now it's up to Andre
Do
to
we want to
provide
discuss it
more.
right now?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
Julius,
I can
give
so yesterday we talked about like the version we're going to test in 1.10. I understand right now you run your manifest testing in the 1.31. I think our discussion was around if we as a community say we support, these versions of Kubernetes, we need to make sure we at least run our manifest tests on those 3 versions, right? So my only point is I don't think we should make a jump from 1.27 to 1.33. Sorry, not 27. Sorry, let me double check. So on the release notes,
129, I think, is the
yeah,
190.
1.29. Yeah, that's right. So my only concern is like I don't think we should make a jump from 1.29 to 1.33. And at least provide the, ability to, to test it on multiple Kubernetes versions, our manifest.
I think I can do so. What I would target is around Kubernetes 131, so 132, 131, 130, probably 129 as well. And I can probably do the automatic test. I can just run them for all 4 Kubernetes version. And then, of course, probably testing lead also should at least try it once as well. But I can cover, I think, these 4 versions with the automatic testing. And I think we are quite safe on that front. So I don't expect any serious Kubernetes issues to come up. In practice, I think we will even support down up to Kubernetes 127 or so, because there is just not that much deprecation happening.
Yeah, I
But
understand. Yeah, go ahead.
So unofficially, it will probably run from Kubernetes 126, 127 or so. But we can test 129 to 132.
Yeah, I think at least we should test it, but at the same time, like, Istio doesn't support 1.33, right? So we need to make sure like the versions that other components, have been supported, we also kind of need to align with those versions from our, Kubeflow manifest perspective. And the problem is like we also cannot guarantee that, all the tests will be passed because we don't, test everything in the Kubeflow manifest today, right? I'm talking about all the, features that, pipelines and other components offer. So some of the features might be just not available on those versions of Kubernetes, right?
We test we test the installation, so we already know whether something does not apply because the API version is outdated, which is already one of the most important things. And then we run, for example, example pipelines, we run example inference service, we run example Ktype hyperparameter tuning. We of course do not cover everything, but so far, given the history, we will most likely catch any regressions that are related to Kubernetes versions.
Yeah, it's fine. But again, I don't think we can test everything, right, as you said, Julius, on the manifest. Because, I mean, all the components have many features, and it just won't be impossible to test everything in a manifest repo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I think like I mean, my point is like if we said that we support from 1.29 to 1.31, we should at least run our test in the manifest repo for this version. And we should probably make the announcement to the distributions which versions we're going to support. Because, for example, we discussed yesterday that probably some distributions might not be ready to deploy 1.32 of Kubernetes. Like we discussed this with Canonical yesterday. I don't know about other distributions and other vendors who want to, install Kubeflow manifest.
I mean, if we support 1.29, I think this should be available, or unofficially even lower, this should be available on almost all Kubernetes platforms or distributions.
Yeah, if you support 3 versions, I think it's better. But I mean, if you follow the Istio approach, I would prefer that we do this. Like Istio supported 4 Kubernetes versions for every Istio release. So anyway, so just Julius, from your perspective, like, do you want to run the test on 1.29 to 1.32 or 1.33? Just to understand it.
Yeah. I think 1.33 might, I'm not sure about the release date, but it might not be ready in time and too late. So I'm fine with 1.32 if we get a kind release. So maybe the kind release for our testing is too late and we don't even get 1.32. Could be the case, but I can definitely target 3 or 4 Kubernetes versions.
Right.
Just, I think one point on this, from a community standpoint, I think we should work on our terminology about whether we saying support or tested with. I think in general, we're testing and documenting. But as for support, I think that's a stronger, different word.
Yeah, I think so as well. What we support, we officially support then around 1.31, whatever that will be in the end exactly. And we might have tested also on older versions.
Right. So, I mean, not that I want to be a stickler about this, but I think that when we discuss this, especially where we're being recorded or documenting, we should probably just say that we're testing and documenting rather than we support as a community.
I agree, Josh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
When I
but
hear
from my, yeah, like, go first, Amber.
Yeah, when I hear the word support, that makes me feel like I can either email, text, Slack somebody with a question or an issue, and I'm going to get support. Somebody is going to help me. So I think Josh is correct on the semantics there.
From my perspective, we should at least ask working group leads to run their tests on multiple Kubernetes versions, right? I mean, this is a minimal, amount of work we can do to make sure at least we can deploy the components on this Kubernetes version, right? And it's not, as Julia said, right? It's not hard to do, right? But we need to do it for every component under Kubeflow ecosystem, right? We do this today for training operator and Gatip for like, I think 3 years already. Not sure about the pipelines as we discussed yesterday.
I mean, the question is whether you do it on every commit or just nightly or something like that. But
yeah, it's up to the working group to decide, but at least they need to run their E2Es on those versions, right?
Here's the thing I've noticed though, Andre. As we get closer to the end of a release, what happens is we make lots of changes. And so every time you have to go back and retest, now we're retesting with bunches of different versions. So that's why I've been pushing for, I don't know what we want to call it, a golden test matrix with the others being stretch. So we do one, because by the time that you have to go through the fifth release before you actually, the third or fourth RC, now you've got to go back and test again and again and again, right?
I don't
in
think you need
practice,
to, yeah. I don't think you need to do this, Josh, if you have automation, right? All right, as Julius did for manifest, as we are doing for training operator, right? Like everything is automated, right?
It only works this way. We just won't get the people to run this manually. No one will be willing to spend his time with that.
I'm okay with it. It's just, I just want to eyes wide open walking towards this. If we're gonna, my suggestion is that we have one golden selection, the rest are stretch. If we get them, great, and we can then document it that way. But I wouldn't sign up for 4 different Kubernetes releases and then all the different dependency alternatives. The test matrix is just too wide.
In
But
the end, I will just use what we have in the release branch then and test it, the same stuff on these different Kubernetes versions. And I think I can do this pass in an automatic manner, at least for Kubeflow/manifest, so the basic functionality. I won't be able to
Just to
do
add,
that much manual tests.
So adding to Andre, right? I think like the manifest group cannot scale to all the requirements of individual repositories. So it's not feasible, right? Like at most what it can do is, as Julius is saying, like it can test all the integrations for different Kubernetes for different Kubeflow components. So I think we have to put the onus of the Kubernetes compatibility on individual repositories, and we should, from a manifest point of view, we should take the common denominator, right, and then ensure that as an integration it works really well. Else it will be really difficult to scale purely from a manifest working group perspective.
all right, well, we'll leave this to the pros. I mean, I think we've had good discussion here. It's up to y'all who actually are doing the hard work to decide which way you want to do it, but
I think that one of the important topic we need to talk about that all the working groups should get aligned with those requirements, right? Like we need to propagate this rule, like golden rule, to the all working groups. So make sure we have like, consistent story around like the version support. Because the problem is like if we say that, for example, like, notebooks supporting 1.32 and pipelines just running their test on 1.29 and pipelines will just break for, some use cases. I think that will be not good for our users, right? So somehow we need to find an agreement, at least like how we run those E2Es, right?
yeah, I mean, I think I've seen in the past that it hasn't been the problem between the working groups. It's been more on the distributions, but I could see that being in the working groups too. That the working groups have more harder dependencies. I mean, the distributions have harder dependencies.
Anyway, yeah, this seems like something we can probably talk about more later, but it feels like we need to just make sure we're clear about what the community is doing versus what individual distributions are doing versus what end users expect from us.
So, but this is actually a very good longer conversation that needs to be held either in the platform or in the release team meeting. And I think what we discussed yesterday in the release team is that somehow we need the parties to coalesce either around an issue and provide an acknowledge on it, or to join one of the meetings and hash this out and get acknowledgements prior to the feature freeze in January. We were thinking this needs to be done relatively soon in this month, at least before Thanksgiving, I mean, before Christmas. If I believe we had that conversation, right, Andre, that we needed at least some heads shaking up and down that people are agreeing. And we kind of think that needs to be done in some formalized way.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, for example, like for training operator, like we have contributor who updated the Kubernetes version from 1.27 to 1.30. And it takes like, it's not a simple task, right? Especially if you have some breaking changes on the API. So that is why I think the pipelines, notebooks, and other working groups should also spend their time to support those versions, right? The data model registry, right? Spark operator. And I hope the release team can, propagate this to the working group leads to make sure they can prioritize this task, right?
Yeah, so Andre, what I will do, and thank you for bringing this topic, which is very critical for the release, and having an agreement for all the groups, as you said, is important. So I will set up a meeting to discuss with the working groups leads, so we can get into an agreement for this release. I will try to do it, yeah, between this week and the other one. So because I remember you mentioned it's also critical if we get into agreement and we need to test and do some work, we do want the teams to have enough time to do that. So we'll do that, and then we'll provide an update here. How that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about potentially having an issue that people could acknowledge on and then having a meeting to discuss it. I would prefer to see that the meeting is one of our existing meetings. And just because it's hard between people all over the world, sometimes people can't make it. So that's why an issue might be a way for people to comment on. And I think there's already an issue open. But
There
I
is an
think we just-
issue.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, there is an issue, but it has multiple issues on it, or it has all the dependencies. So we could either continue the conversation there or create a new issue. The problem with the meetings that I found is on the release meeting, it seems we needed more people, that we couldn't arrive to the decision, and the same happened with this meeting. So it seems we need to find another venue for this discussion.
I think I agree with you here, Valentina. I think like it will be hard to get everyone on the same meeting. I think just let's ping the working group people in the issue and ask them to maybe create the tracking issue where they maybe link the tracking issue where they're supporting this commerce version, or at least they give their status, right? From the training and Ultimate Working Group, I can give you our tracking issue for commerce version support.
All right.
And Valentina, I can also work with you once you set up the meeting, and whether it's going to be held here or release team or issue, the combination of all, and promote it out to the greater community so that you can get more folks commenting on it.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, Valentina, great job by the release team, by you and Ricardo and everyone who's contributing, especially towards the documentation and the test plans. These are the things that have caused us the most feedback from the community about places that we need to improve. So the fact that you guys are ahead of the game here, you're really showing good leadership. I really do encourage everyone to kind of help them along. And I do believe that for our efforts to graduate from the CNCF, we need to get this process down and documented. So the fact that the test plans and those things are coming along, if you can, help with those things, please do. Valentina, anything else before we go to the next topic on the prices, right?
No, that's all. Thank you. Thank you so
All right.
much.
So we're going to move on to the Kubeflow steering committee elections, and we're going to ask Amber to come on down.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so we're underway. We're under the nominations phase. I believe we have 4 people nominated. I've reached out on all of our social media to remind folks that if they know someone or they themselves are on the list, to nominate themselves or nominate someone else. So, and I've been reaching out to those nominees to get their information to set up their issue, because we'll open that the 9th or whatever. And we're moving along. Those who don't have, who are eligible to vote and do not have their emails listed on their GitHub account, I'll be setting up an issue and tagging those people so we can get their email addresses, so that you'll start seeing those issues pop up later today, and until we get all the email addresses. So if you know someone on that list, especially those who aren't part of the Kubeflow project, like you can't search their GitHub ID and they pop up as part of our organization, that have contributed and are eligible. If you know those folks, please reach out to them and let them know I'm be contacting. So everything's moving along great. We just, if I don't want anybody who wants to be nominated to miss the opportunity. So if you know someone, please let them know that the nominations phase is still open.
Okay. Any questions about the steering committee election or process? Great job, Amber. And thank you for keeping the updates going. It's appreciate the reminders. Maybe we can move forward from there. Is that okay? On to create new repo. We always need a new repo. Right, Matthew?
I mean, maybe I'm just the one who makes a lot of repos, but no. This is not my request.
All right, who wants to take this one on?
Yeah, I can take this one. Yeah,
Perfect.
we are doing almost wrapping up model registry, and there is a bunch of code there that we want to share with Notebook 2.0, especially regarding the team. So we need ideally a shared repo to put all those libraries first in the short term. But in the long run, we would like to have a common repository for the Kubeflow for the front end with all the CSS tokens for the community to allow others to do extendability of the dashboard. Maybe probably take the components of the Kubeflow central dashboard and change the tokens as we are doing with Patternfly and Material UI, and put their own branding and reuse any component of the Kubeflow community inside their own distributions. And the main important point of this is that ideally we should have a release cycle independently inside those repositories to be able to provide fast iteration between CVEs and bump upgrades on the libraries and become easy to consume.
So I think the only question, we need to talk about like what we can do with existing web apps, right?
Yep.
And who will be responsible to maintain them? Otherwise, we will just not be possible to offer all these existing UIs to our users.
Yeah, that's one good point is that with the other there is a refactoring that is going on that the person that just started for the center dashboard that can reuse the same infrastructure. But the main issue of that having the common library inside Kubeflow is that becoming harder for us to get things merged that and maintain. So making complicated to use the central dashboard right now.
I mean, that's not common code though. The central dashboard will live in the dashboard stuff.
Oh yeah, but I mean, there is the common code inside Kube Web Apps. That there is a folder there. There's common code.
Yeah, that's the only common code that I think we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Is it, Andre? You're talking about anything else?
Yeah, that's right. So all this code is used by almost all the web apps, not only Kubeflow pipelines, and not using them, right? Central dashboard, I guess, also.
Central dashboard doesn't use it, no.
Yeah, but it uses the Kubeflow user ID handler, right, to propagate the Kubeflow user to the iframes.
This is one of the libraries. This we can include on this podcast on this repository as well. And Matthew, what Andrew is talking is about that small window API that we add to fetch namespaces on the central dashboard and see the namespace difference on
because namespace has been propagated to the underlying iframes.
Doesn't that come from just like the dashboard itself though? Isn't that served on the dashboard?
But the code is there on the dashboard.
But the code doesn't need to be in the individual apps though, does it?
No, but it's a shared code.
Kind of. I mean, but that one still can be versioned with the dashboard is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the part that I think Andre cares about is the common code because there are other apps that use it. So yeah, like I guess in the short term, we should. I mean, we can either move it all, but to make it easier, I think there's two. We can either move it at the same time as we move the notebooks to the notebooks repo, the notebooks components, for the 1.0 notebooks components, including the volumes web app. Oh no, the volumes is not. Yeah, the volumes web app as well. Yes, sorry. Or we can move it to this other common repo first and then move the other code. It just depends on how you want to do it, Andre.
So we need to find someone who can, maintain this, common web apps for at least a couple of years until we find people who can.
We're going to be maintaining at least for a while on the notebooks side but not as intensely as we were.
Yeah, but the problem I have other UIs which are dependent on this common web
What I'm
apps,
saying is
right?
like it's not it's just a question of practicality. It's if there's no clear person or group to maintain it on the new repo, we might as well just leave it with the existing web apps and then have it be somewhat maintained, than not have it at all. And
For
have it
this
just on the
new
notebooks
repo, we are going to maintain it, the code.
I mean,
And
maybe.
gradually, yeah, no, and gradually we can start to push features from the Kubeflow for this common repository in a
The
midterm.
Kubeflow will not exist either. Like
Yeah,
we will.
no, I mean the code that the shared common code that is on Kubeflow. We can start gradually move for this repository and maintain there.
Yeah, so I think the question is like for the repo that you want to have for these assets between model registry and notebooks 2.0, right? Like, do we want to move the existing Angular backends as well there? Or you want to maintain, I mean, probably not you, but who will be responsible to maintain existing,
I see.
components and where? Like is it in the Kubeflow dashboard? Or it's in this new repo that you want to create, right?
Anyway, I think in either case, I don't think either of these things will happen before the 1.10 release. And because the only one that we might move before the 1.10 is the dashboard, and that's dependent on Kimonos getting that code moved to the dashboard repo. Because it's
yes,
much easier for us to resolve the open PRs on that one and then move it.
Yeah, I guess like all this code, like I guess we discussed it with Julius, right? And we kind of like, we need to move forward to move the code, everything, not the notebooks and volumes to this dashboard repo. The only question about the CRUD web apps, right? Do we all
Well, the CRUD
also...
web apps are those. That definitely is going to be moved at the same time. The only question is that common folder. And I just worry that having the common folder on its own could make it a real pain to maintain.
But which common folder?
There's only one, well, there's kind of two common
Oh, I
folders.
see.
But
Okay, common folder in the CRUD web apps, right? You're talking about.
yeah, that's because it's under that folder, but the other components depend on it. I understand that it's unfortunate that you've got components which don't live in that repo, which are versioned from that. And it's the same problem for you guys. But all I'm saying is let's just move the dashboard stuff, which is separate, and then we need to resolve the open PRs for the notebook stuff, which includes all of the CRUD web apps in that repo, to the notebooks repo. And then the question is, do we try and factor out that common code first before that notebooks move, or after? And I don't really mind either way. It's just,
Yeah,
if there's...
My rigid problem right now is that I will have to start to copy and paste code and duplicate code from model registry that are common code for the notebooks 2.0.
So there's two different things there. Like they're completely different assets, right? One is for the CRUD web apps and one is for the whatever it's called. No, but the React stuff. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes. And Andre, are you okay with having two completely different things versioned in the same in the same repo, or would you prefer not?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It depends on the people who are going to maintain, right? Like, do we have people here on the call who are planning to maintain those components? Like,
Which part?
because, I mean, it looks like we don't, right?
But which part? The CRUD web apps will be
Like
maintained as
yes,
part of
like
1.0.
all of these platform components which related to UI, right? Central dashboard.
Well, the dashboard will be maintained by the notebooks working group. That's fine. But
yeah, okay,
that has to exist. That we're committing to that.
But the CRUD web apps also cannot exist. I mean, notebooks 1.0 cannot exist without this common web app, right?
Of course, yeah, and that's why I'm saying let's just, because notebooks is used by lots of people and it does get contributions. It's the UIs especially. As much as we've done a rewrite, we haven't released the rewrite yet. Anyway, I don't think we need to keep belaboring this too much, but I think it's clear that this won't happen before the one. We need a common UI for Eda's immediate problem though, which is to prevent for the React common code. Let's just create a repo called React Common or something. I don't know, and then.
So I mean, from my perspective, before we do this, I would love to understand the strategy and a long-term plan, maybe from you, Eder, especially on the old existing assets, maybe from other folks who are working on the UI. Because the problem is right now, right? Like, yes, I mean, I understand the future, we're going to have this common, CSS tokens, but what we're going to do with existing assets, right? And are we going to just deprecate them? And how many years it will take up for us to deprecate them, right? Or months, I don't know. And migrate to the new assets, right?
Yeah, the main problem of this is that this, I understand the value of this, but this you kind of block, and I will have to copy and paste code from model registry for notebook 2.0 right now until we have this decision, and there is a lack of people contributing for the dashboard code to maintain right now. We are kind of stuck in the problem, but I understand your concern.
Any other comments from other folks in the community? Like, any suggestions?
I think you guys are talking completely two separate things, right? Having a repository is one thing that is forward looking, right? That is a requirement we do need right now, and we cannot go past that. Go past that to do the notebooks redesign 2.0 redesign, right? That's we need it. So let's commit to that. And as far as the moving the other stuff is, it depends upon how much community is willing to move the old stuff into the new stuff. So that has to be dealt with at a later point or concurrently. But I don't think these two things are related, in my opinion.
Andre, what would be your my preference is just to move the common code with the in its current structure to the new notebooks repo. If you want me to commit that will let you make PRs to update the common code, that's fine too. You can do that. Because you just reference a specific commit, don't you?
So yeah, exactly. Like, doesn't matter for us as the KTP UI, we can reference to the commit. I mean, I just want to say from my perspective, and I started this issue back in April this year, right? We need to prioritize this task to split the repo, right? The problem is right now it's been there for like 8 months, and we just don't have enough people who can, drive those, migration.
We do have a
I
clear
see
pathway, it's just there's steps.
Yeah, but I just see a huge problem for especially new users who don't understand Kubeflow ecosystem, who just jump to the project and just feel, upset because we don't merge their PRs, and they don't really understand like what is actually Kubeflow. And this is why I think this is the high priority for us as a community to resolve these tasks first, rather than jumping to the new projects. And I understand the importance of them as well, but this task probably should be prioritized from the community perspective. This is the only thing I want to talk about, right?
Well, as I said, the next steps for migrating code is to first move the dashboard code because there's less open PRs on the dashboard. And then once we've got rid of the dashboard, you've already got rid of half of your stuff. And then there's a lot more open PRs on Notebooks 1.0. And also, since like part of it's just, we can easily cut a dashboard release because it's only one thing. But the notebooks would be a bit more work to cut before the 1.10, which is why I think we're still going to end up cutting 1.10 for notebooks itself on the main repo. But that's fine, I think. I don't see a huge problem with that. Anyway,
So how do we resolve this? So
well,
we
in the
can
very short term,
move-
we just need a place to store the common code that's between Notebooks 2.0 and model registry. Either they can just duplicate the code, which is fine, or they can make a branch on one of the repos. I don't know, just anything. If we just make a new repo, making a new repo is always a bit of a pain. But what do you prefer for that, Andre?
Who is going to maintain this code?
That's a good
The
question.
new code, for the model
No,
registry and not
the existing code. The
That's
existing
a separate question.
Yeah,
The notebooks, well, it's going to be the same people who are currently maintaining it, which is where there's kind of like a group of people who can approve things, and then the users are the ones making changes because it's mostly like static. We're not really doing huge updates to 1.0 right now.
But who is going to, make the release and maintain because the problem is notebooks 1.0 dependent on the CRUD web apps, right? The common web apps.
I cut the releases right now. It's fine. I just cut them. That's also why I don't want to put a whole bunch of extra work on myself if we haven't set up the release processes on the new repo. For notebooks, but that's separate.
Yeah, so I guess like my
what I'm-
question is
yeah.
like the problem is like I don't know how many months notebooks 1.0 will be lived until we completely deprecate, but the problem is this common web because it's used by other UIs might be lived for longer, right? Which means like
It
we
will
need
probably
some
be lived for even longer than that because we're not planning on getting rid of the volumes web app. At least
yeah,
initially.
that's right. So that is why not moving all those things to the dashboard repo?
No, because it's no, we're not. No, stop suggesting that. Like, we already agreed we're not doing that because it's not the dashboard. Like, that's completely different code base. It's not even the same framework. Like, it's like the dashboard is about the dashboard, and that's all it's about. The notebook stuff, because all the code is kind of grouped together, notebooks 1.0 volumes, and we're going to be removing tensor boards, but in the currently tensor boards. That's going to be in the notebooks 2.0 repo or 1.0 repo as it's called, I guess.
Okay,
It's the
Maja, so
same
what do you
repo.
suggest in terms of time frame? And right now we have December 3rd, right? Like what is your time frame to do to perform this migration?
Well, the first migration is just to remove the dashboard code, which includes the.
So can we give a timeline? I guess we can do it right now, right?
Ask Kimonos,
Discuss.
right? He's the one actively working on that. I don't know
And the
exactly
profiles
what's
as well,
happening.
right?
That will be the profiles, KFM, and the dashboard, and the Angular rewrite of the dashboard.
And I guess since Julius is here, we kind of can migrate it even right now, right? Because we don't need to wait anything, right, Julius?
It's just changing a source target for them.
Yeah, probably yes. I think we can move to code over. I mean, there will be some CI/CD changes probably, and I have to rewrite the scripts in Kubeflow/manifest to synchronize it. So if
We
Matthew or
also need to
Kimonas
scaffold
move
that
to
repo.
so yeah, but as soon as you move the code, either Kimonas or Matthew move the code over to dashboard, I can adjust the scripts in Kubeflow/manifest.
Given the limited timeline, Julius, can you do that or you don't have enough bandwidth to perform this section?
It's just not a code base that he maintains, so it doesn't really make sense for him to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I can try, but I would like to work on that with Matthew or Kimonas because they are still the maintainers in Kubeflow/Kubeflow. And yes, I will probably do more in Kubeflow/dashboards. But to move the code over on my own, I probably would like to ask Matthew or Kimonas whether I can do so.
Yeah, so the thing that's blocking us doing it right now is just there's a tiny number of open pull requests, and I'm not actually sure what's blocking Kimonos from doing it. We just need to follow up with Kimonos. He's both able and willing to do it. It's just we need.
Yeah, but I mean,
if Kimonas
yeah, go Julius.
If it really stays like this, and after the 1.10 release, it's still not migrated, at some point I will do the pull request, yes. But I don't want to.
No, we can't do it with a pull request. We don't do it with a pull request. We're gonna do it by actually moving the commits with history, rewriting the links in the tags so that they can actually be linked back to the original pull requests on the original repo. Because you can, it's really simple. There's like a set of commands you can use to do it. But
okay, you want to keep all the history.
Exactly, yeah. We definitely won't be using a pull request to do it. So it'll just be we might use a pull request to remove it on the main repo, but on the new repo, yeah.
But at some point in time, we have to provide a date for Andre and something where you can stand by and say, well, yes, by then I will have migrated it over.
Yeah, I mean, we can confirm with Kimonos what his current status is because he was actively working on it last week, so. And that's for the dashboard, KFAM, and profile controllers.
How much is this holding up the model registry development work?
That, nothing at all. It's not related, but the
only thing that it's if until we have this repository for shared help, we probably will have to copy and paste code between notebooks and model registry. That is the same code. We live in two different code bases.
I mean, if that's the case, either I would even suggest opening up a private repo on the GitHub and start piling up the common code. When this thing is resolved, you can pull it back in.
You can transfer it, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, we can transfer it then.
It's okay for me to start on that way, because this also how also works. You just need to publish things for NPM.
Oh, you need to publish things for NPM.
Yep, for consumption.
Okay.
Yeah, that may be a problem.
Because transferring that could be complicated. Okay. We don't really have any other NPM artifacts right now. We could still install from Git, right, in NPM? Or kind of not.
Yeah, kind of not. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't really. Wow. Since it's both unreleased development things, I think it's fine if so. It's also
we're going to release the Y with 110.
I see.
For the modular.
If you just duplicated the code, it wouldn't need this, right?
No, yeah, but it will be a technical debt that we need to solve eventually.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just copy it then. It's fine. Just copy it. Like, if you really don't want to copy it, then
I mean, do we know for sure that when we copy it to a private Git repo, we cannot move? It's a problem with the NPM. Can we?
It's more that we just don't have any artifacts right now that are NPM from Kubeflow.
Yeah, it's that we are going to release just some source of package like Kubeflow Y something, and then later rename the reference.
I mean, can we do like in Python? Like whatever the packages is, like a wheel package, like in that with the React, where somebody has to manually package and roll it in rather than copying code.
If everybody in the community is fine for me to have this private happen later transfer for the Kubeflow community and release like with any name on the Kubeflow, on the NPM, we can proceed these until we have the plan.
Can't we host NPM on GitHub? Can't we host NPM packages on GitHub? Like, not as like Git. I mean, like on the GitHub packages thing.
I never did that method, honestly. I need to research, but it's not the common development cycle.
If we have a official NPM, where would you want to be hosting it? Just on the official one?
No, we can host with any name. Like I can create my own org and Kubeflow Y assets and put the NPM there as an org.
Well, it sounds like we just need an official NPM org then, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the core thing. It doesn't really matter where the code is getting pushed from. We just need an official one that can be pushed from somewhere. So it's free. You can host packages on GitHub itself, which I think is probably what we should probably do. Because it looks like, unless the CNCF has a relationship with the NPM people, it looks like it does cost money. Or maybe not, if it's free. Okay. You could just do it on a Red Hat repo, maybe. Might be better than a personal repo.
I can use ODH repo. The only thing that we are going to point Kubeflow, this sharded component for ODH for now, and then later remove.
Yeah.
It would be a third-party dependency. And I can put in, not in my personal account, I can use ODH account for it. If everybody agrees, and then when we have the decision that we plan, we just transfer the ownership of the repository.
That's probably fine. Is there a release process already for all the ODH NPM packages?
Yep, we can set up the same.
If you've already got that code, then that saves you a lot of time. So just do that.
Yep.
Is everyone else okay with that?
It will be okay, Andre?
Yeah, what others think about it? Like, I think maybe for the short term it's fine. I think for the long term, I agree with you. We need to have a repo for these common CSS tokens.
We don't even need to actually transfer it. We can just make a new one and have the old one not be used anymore, right? It's not going to be delete. We're not going to delete the old one. So Cool. Yep, that's a solution for that problem. And then
Yep.
the problem that Andre has, for now, just expect that within it, I can almost guarantee that the Kubeflow repo will still be the home of Notebooks 1.0 and the common CRUD web apps for now. So just make PRs in there if you need changes.
Can you give a timeline, Matthew? Like for now, which now we're talking about?
Oh, sorry. Well, it depends on how well the transfer for the dashboard goes, I guess. If that goes really well, then maybe Kimonos will want to do that other one almost immediately. But I would say let's just for now assume that it's not going to be moved before 1.10 for that one.
So do we mean by April we're not going to move the Kubeflow, right?
Or, well, that's a good question because we would need to cut the release from somewhere for Notebooks 1.0. So wherever that is will be the source of that code. But you reference specific commit anyway, so it's not like it's that big of a deal to you.
Yeah, anyway, I think maybe we can postpone the discussion. It's not a problem for us as a KTIP, right, project. It's more problem for people who start to understand what is Kubeflow. But anyway, I mean, if maintainers decide to do that, it's up to you to decide what timeline you want to get there to migrate this code. It's not me who's making the final decision. So anyway,
I mean,
let's move on.
I just want to make it easy for you to develop, not any more. That's my main goal. Anyway, yeah, let's move on. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thanks for getting that resolved.
And Josh, before jumping in, I'd quickly talk about it'll be 1 second just to because it is related to the front end. We are doing accessibility study for model registry and for also notebook 2.0, and we found some issues in the central dashboard that can be easily addressed. So we are creating an issue for the community to start to discuss accessibility on central dashboard.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
If people are willing to make PRs, then that's fine.
Yep. We are going to start to model registry and then notebooks 2.0, and we are looking for people to help also on the central dashboard, especially to make sure that in the rewriting Angular has this fixed.
Cool.
Okay, is that issue going to be critical for you guys in the next near term to get resolved?
Yes.
Okay.
But we are going to deal with the model registry already, or it's fixed already in model registry, and also notebook 2.0 will be compliant with accessibility.
All right, let's keep
So
that
it's more
on the
about a
list of-
testing framework, right? Is there like a specific automatic test that we can do?
We are going to, we are putting an action in the model registry and also notebook 2.0 repo. As soon as there is issue with accessibility, just block the PRs until it's fixed.
Okay, cool. Because yeah, otherwise it's impossible to keep track of. Yeah.
Yep.
So we can leave it on the list of things to remind people here, but that sounds like something that should be discussed in the notebooks working group meeting, because that's where the central stuff is. Maybe. All right.
Yeah, and we're actively rewriting it as well. So yeah.
All right. Valentina, you have this website PRs. I'm going to move to that one because you're doing good work here. Can you give us an update on what's happening?
Yes, thank you. So last time we talked about the 79 open PRs, working on the spreadsheet that we talked with Matthew, but in the meantime as well, there was some suggestion from someone in the community, I don't remember who was suggested to include, to do a stale PRs and issues. So I created an issue on the website repo to implement this. It seems everyone it's okay, so I will just go and implement that. So the idea is to resolve this problem to not happen again in the future, not having issues or PRs that are open for years. So the stale script will help avoiding those. The other thing I noticed was there were some PRs and issues that didn't have enough description or definition or commits that weren't signed off. So the idea is to include a template with the requirements at other repos they have, in order to avoid all those PRs that have they are not clear, or issues that are not clear, in order to resolve those problems and avoid having those problems in the future. I also I prioritized the ones that are from the PRs that are open for this year. So I reached out to several of you. So thank you so much. We closed 5 issues, so 5 PRs. So thank you. So yeah, it's moving along. So I just wanted to provide that update, and thank you everyone for contributing and answering quickly. So we'll continue working on that. And thank you so much to Prayat, who will be contributing soon. So thank you.
So how will you status on this, and what help do you need, and where does this fit? Is this outside of any existing working group? Is this, how do we kind of keep track on this progress that you're making?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because there is it's kind of, the website is outside, seems of, it doesn't have like a working group. So we do. I think we do have 2 problems. One, we discussed it about the technical documentation yesterday, but the other one is who is keeping an eye on the PRs that are open there on the website. If we need an updates on the libraries or anything else that, I don't know, update the events that are coming. So we don't have anyone right now to, be looking into those things. So I just started looking into that. My idea is to right now try to prioritize, all those PRs. They still will help to start closing all those PRs that are there and very, old. So we'll start sending notifications to people, and I will continue just, looking and sending notifications. So for this community, is if you have time and want to contribute, please reach out. We will have for sure some issues that are still open or PRs that need to be closed. Be aware of notifications that you may receive in order to, just act quickly, either if you need to close an old issue or update a PR. That happens as well. There was a PR that was open for so long that it needed to be updated in order to be merged. So there is a lot of things going on. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking moving forward, but open to any suggestions from this group.
So I'm always very cautious of stale bots, because it's at least in software, it's not unreasonable for issues to be open for years before they get resolved, especially if they're not big priorities. And if you just keep closing issues that are legitimate, both it's annoying to users and also it causes duplication of the same issues. Like, if an issue is not resolved for a couple years, it's fine. Like, if we all agree that that's a thing that is a valid request, we're just not doing it right now. That's why stale-bots should ignore things that have been accepted, usually. Like, there should be a label which says this is an accepted issue, and that's for issues. For pull requests, there is something to be said about bumping people, but it can still sometimes take a while with pull requests. But yeah, I'd agree that we should probably be at least warning people that, they haven't. Automatically closing PRs is fine, usually, but it's because they shouldn't be open for years, but issues definitely can be in a valid sense, like I've seen. Otherwise, it just makes it hard to keep track of requests and features, and if we've chosen to do something in the future but not now.
But
Yeah,
isn't that
no,
already the case?
Hmm?
Isn't that already the case in our stable? We have this lifecycle frozen, especially for that.
Yeah, that's the explicit way of doing it. Yeah, that's pretty much, maybe, yeah, there's something, it's a bit confusing, but yeah, that is how we typically have done it, yes. Although it sounds a bit different to, like, in my mind, you should just never close an issue that's accepted, right? If someone has triaged an issue and says this is a valid issue, and then our goal would be to deduplicate requests in the future into that issue by pointing, people towards that one. But
yeah, no, it's a great point. I think so maybe we need to consider the issues to give it a longer time. But before we steal them, like, we always notify the users. So what happens, for example, there were some issues that were had a couple of years long, and some of them were not longer valid because other issues were created, which was replacing that older issue.
Yeah.
So there was all those sort of different things going on. But I do think that if an issue has more than a year and no one work on it, it's still valid. And especially with Kubeflow, that, that is moving so quickly, that sometimes, the files doesn't longer even exist. So there are many things that could be happening. And I think after at least a year, we need to review and see, is this still valid, or what should
Well, that's
we
a
do?
separate
Why no
process.
one? Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with the
I-
initial staleness. Like, the staleness in my mind is saying for issues that aren't like feature requests or things that are actually going to be resolved immediately, a lot of issues are questions, and those ones definitely can be stale-botted out. But like
Yeah.
because they'll never be accepted because they're not it's not an accepted thing. But like, it's not a request. So it's just like, that's how it's because stale-bots are sometimes, it depends on how bad it is, could be viewed as hostile to the user as well. That's kind of
Yeah.
but like, we should also be responding immediately, if we can, to valid requests and or triaging them, right? And that's the thing that the stale-bot's also there for, to remind us, you haven't triaged this, it's not, why haven't you triaged this or
I
closed
think
it?
I
Yeah.
think the default is that after 2 months or so, you already get a notification this issue is stale, and only after 3 or 4 months the issue is closed. So if nothing happens, no feedback from either the user or maintainer in 4 months, I would argue that it's quite likely that this can be closed. If there's no lifecycle
Yeah.
frozen, no communication at all.
But yet I've
Because then
seen
we don't
issues
have the
that have-
bandwidth.
But feature requests could take years. Like, there was issues open in the Go programming language repo for 10 years before they were closed,
And,
like,
and then you as maintainer can decide, okay, I will implement this next year, but if no one else, and you can do lifecycle frozen, even the average user can do lifecycle frozen, but only if someone is really willing to take the responsibility there.
So what I'm thinking is, it has these 2 stages. First, it notifies you, then it still it, and we can configure the time. So Matthew, will follow up with you on the script once I
I mean,
have
the
it, and
timing
then you
is,
can review it.
yeah, it's just
Um,
also, I just think it's a good idea that we as a group actually have a policy around not using Stalebot to close valid issues. It's like, we should, it's like, even if we're not working on it, this is an open source project. If someone was, so effectively, there's only 3 states that an issue can be: completely invalid, a valid request, or something we're not working on intentionally because we're not going to do it. And like, and having very clear, like, those are the only 3 valid states for anything that's a request of the project. And so like, just because we don't have the resources to do something now doesn't mean that someone a year from now isn't going to be able to say, that's a valid thing for my company, I'm going to put the resources into it. It's an open source project. But if we've actively said, no, we're never going to do that, that's a valid thing for the leadership of the community to be like, we're not going to support this because it's not licensed correctly, or something like that. There could be that reason, or maybe it's just not the purpose.
I get the rock in the shoe kind of concept, Matthew. On the other side, being tidy and closing things out and not having tons of open issues and people coming in and just looking at the community and saying, why are all these open issues and how come there's nobody responding to them and all this other. I mean, I get both sides of it. I think there's a bigger kind of concept here of, this, how do we take care of the website, and the fact that Valentina is willing to kind of put some effort towards it, and we've got other people that are willing. We need to take advantage of getting things done, right? In some process that maybe we don't all agree to, but we make progress to move forward and make things look cleaner, especially if we're working towards CNCF graduation. And there is some form of educated process about why we did it this way.
I mean, the website is maybe a separate thing. I'm more talking about overall for the actual
No, I
products.
think I kind of agree with Josh. I think much of the point, the problem is, I agree with you that probably we should not close the issues randomly, but the problem is, like, many people will come to the new projects and it shows how many open bags you have, and this actually, can represent the project maturity, right? Like, because if you have, like, a few thousand open issues, many new organizations can just, not take care about this project because the project is not being actively maintained. So the stale bot helping cross all the CNCF of different projects. And I agree that we need to close, and maybe we need to, if we don't want to close this issue, we need to make sure we're going to triage them at least, right? As I think Julius mentioned, like it reminds us that we need to reconcile this issue. So I think it's a good thing to enable this tailbot.
Like a lot of issues, when you see thousands of issues, are usually questions. They're not so much, you know what I mean, bugs. And if they are bugs, they could still be valid. Like it's like the perceptions of the project aside, the purpose of having an issue is to have a resolution, one way or the other. And
no, the problem is the people who are not aware of Kubeflow, they don't care, right? They just see how many open bugs you have,
but
and
we're not performing here. This is not a performance. We are here to build software. Don't make silly suggestions like we want to pretend like we have got less bugs than we actually do. If we have bugs, we need to resolve them.
Yeah, what I notice is a lot of the old issues are just not longer valid and needs to be updated. So I think what I can do is also continue reviewing and see what could make sense for all of us to, distill in terms of the time based on what we have right now. So I will write that maybe, and then you can add comments on that. The other thing is I'm proposing as well to have that different types of issues, like issues or features. So that could help us distinguish as well if we want to treat them different. So the features are one thing, issues are the other one, and then cores, there are other things. So I think, I can write something about that and then we can review. But I just think the cleaning is important because I think what we are saying is, as newcomers also, if I start working on something and it's not longer valid, so I'm wasting my time. So we want to avoid also that and provide some clarity on what's going on. And right now it's not clear what's going on. So we want to avoid that in the future. So I know we
want to go through the list of open things and proposed close. That would be a good use of your time. Like absolutely, 100%. But
yeah, I did that with the first page. Yeah, I did that with the first page. But then there are like, I don't know, 10 more pages. I don't know how many. So, and we shouldn't be doing this manually. I think it should be an automated process. But yeah, so Matthew, I will document it and share with you and the community, and then we go from there. How that sounds? No, we are past time.
Someone wanted to speak?
Josh,
yeah.
You wanted to say something?
Did you have your hands up? You want to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think Matt, we're all saying the same thing where we just want to foster a good community and make sure people are aware that we're responding. And I think Valentina's approach of suggesting a bot to do that, I think that makes sense. And I think that we don't have to deceive users. I agree that if we have bugs, we got to address them. I just think that sometimes when they're not relevant, we can just close them out to be just be communicative. And I think that that's what you're saying too. So I guess we're all saying the same thing.
And as in the case of the website specifically, Valentina, if you just want to go through and get like as long as 2 people agree that something is invalid, we can close it. That's just like we did that with hundreds of issues on the Kubeflow repo, like maybe like 300 issues or something. So
sorry, Matthew, I disagree with this approach, to be honest. I think we should being focused on the issue, and I think this folks should respond in the issue, because asking our contributors to create a spreadsheet, I don't think it's feasible, because we should all work on the GitHub, right? And we should respect when someone actually pinging us and asking for the feedback. This is how majority of CNCF community operates. Many of them, right, in different projects. Because creating
for new things, but we should get back to a clean state and then start having that policy.
So here's a question on this in particular. Valentina, you kind of may have looked at some of these 79. How much can we cut this down? Can we cut it by 50%, do you think? Or what's the...
So I haven't looked at the 79. I prioritized the first one, but most of them were not, were not longer valid. So Yeah. So
All right, no,
that's
I
why I
think
want to
I'm fine.
include this still. I think it will help, to bring everyone who is involved on those PRs, and they receive comments and they, okay, let's take a look. The other problems that I found, as I mentioned, was people maybe didn't sign the commits. The people that maybe are not clarifying what the PRs are doing. They have merging conflicts. So there are a lot of things going on that we need to reach out to those people individually. But I did analyze kind of almost the first page, and I found different things going on, like, so the source code changed, it's not longer valid. So there were a lot of different things, issues that went open and people didn't close it, or people, older issues replaced the older one. So there is a lot of things going on. So yeah, so
I mean,
I think the
fine,
scale will help with that.
I guess, look, if there are 20 open issues or PRs, it's a lot easier for anybody to manage than 79. So like, if there's some way we can cut out a lot of these, Matthew, I get the point of, but
So pull requests are different to issues, right? Issues can often be spam, but pull requests sometimes are spam, but less commonly.
yeah, good point.
No.
Like a pull request is a request to change something. Most of these that don't have signing off are just going to be because it was before we used the sign off bot. Like it was a CLA time. There's 117 issues on the website. A lot of them are invalid, but a lot of them are things that should be transferred to other repos. They're people asking for support effectively for a particular component. But all I'm saying is I don't think it's actually that difficult to go through 79 issues or 100 issues even. If you want, we can just go through them together, Valentina, and we can close the ones that are definitely invalid together if you want. Like we can just jump on a call and be like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, if you want. But
For me, it took me a little more time because we needed, to review. It's still valid. What issues related? I don't know. Maybe you have a better technique to go quickly. But I'm open to do that. But I do think that we need a process, to avoid this to happen in the future. And then reaching out to people, and so it takes some time. But
All right,
but
well,
yeah.
let's try to move that forward, however it makes sense. I had one other item, we're way over time, but we've invested in some of the RAG. I think there was some retrieval augmentation generation type work in some of the recent development work. I think maybe Andre and maybe the training operator group did some stuff on RAG. But I saw this thing on Anthropic's model context protocol. I don't know if anybody's reviewed that, this MCP, and also all the kind of recent work on agents. And I'm just wondering what people's general feel, and I guess we're way over time, so we can bring this up later, but how these might influence the way RAG works in the future, right? And some of the current, are we starting to leapfrog? Go ahead, Francisco.
Yeah, I have a strong view on this, and it's part of the reason that I've been doing the feast thing so much. But retrieval augmented generation and in-context learning and all these different frameworks where they inject some form of data into serving at inference time, it's a data problem, and it's something that in the feast community we're actively building more and more for, because the canonical example with RAG is to embed some documents, basically chunk some sentences or tokens and embed them, and then do this kind of vector-based retrieval, which we support in Feast with a bunch of different backend databases like Elasticsearch or SQLite is a recent one, and PG Vector. But also what some folks have found is that injecting with user data or some data by some primary key, an arbitrary primary key, which is what we call in Feast language an entity, is really important. And so at the model level, it's just a feature, right? It's just a thing that's going into the matrix that's going to be used for a multiplication, that inference time, whether that be in training or at serving. And so like all of these things really, really ultimately rely on some primitive infrastructure for serving that data. They're doing it in training and in serving. And again, these are things that Feast really built for and designed for intelligently. Adding the model context protocol, I think it looks like they're aiming specifically for agents. And you know, if they want these agents to be fine-tuned and to evolve and to optimize, then it's a thing that you know, we could look to support. I think there's a broader theme here, is that like data is an important part of AI, and that's shouldn't be a surprise. That's my 2 cents on it, and as a thing that I'd be particularly excited about, and why I think Feast is an important part.
Yeah, I would love us to, you know, like submit some proposals to maybe automate the, you know, the agents generation on top of cloud infrastructure, just to see how we can leverage the existing compute for this. So maybe, yeah, we can maybe talk about this sometime when we have time about it. So maybe Josh propose this topic next week, and maybe we can dive deeply to those discussions.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it may not completely influence us, or it may be orthogonal, but there may open up other conversations, that things that
I think the
are
question is like, yeah, the question is like which part of ML life cycle it can be associated with, right? Because I mean, you can definitely implement RAG with a new inference pipeline, right? The question is like, is it the scope of the K-serve, or it's a scope of other parts of the life cycle, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, well, we're over time. I think we'll go ahead and close the meeting out, if that's okay.
Thank you, Josh.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Folks.
Have fun, everyone.